AITA for unilaterally downsizing our vacation rental when people didn't give me their share. A group of 12 of us were going on a vacation together this summer. Everyone was supposed to give me money so I could rent a huge house where we were going. When I tried to collect, a few people paid immediately, but some said they would get me later or ignored me. The house we were originally going to rent got scooped up by someone else because I didn't put a deposit down. I found another house with similar amenities, but it would only sleep 8. I booked it since that was the money I had. In the next weeks, the other 4 people said they were ready to pay. I told them that the house we had looked at was gone, but that we had rented a smaller house and we could get some inflatable mattresses or something for them. They said if they were paying full price, they wanted a room. I said, okay, we are all paying full price, so we all deserve a room. However, there aren't that many rooms to go around. Two canceled and got a room together at a hotel about 30 minutes away from the house. All of them are upset that I changed the plans without consulting with them. The other 7 are happy with the arrangements. AITA. NTA. You'd have been crazy to front the deposit with your own money. All those 4 would have had to do would be cancel or just not pay, and you'd have been out some significant cash. If they don't pay, they don't get the bargain lodgings. They always have the option, as 2 of them took, to arrange their own. Didn't change the plans. You got rooms for those who paid you. Getting rooms for those who didn't pay you would set a really bad precedent. Two canceled and got a room together at a hotel about 30 minutes away from the house. All of them are upset that I changed the plans without consulting with them. Then they should have paid when you tried to collect. Being the organizer is a thankless enough job as it is. As one of the non-organizing guests, literally all they had to do was pay when asked. NTA. NTA, I don't get the poor communication comments. Op requested the money for the rental. They ignored it. Op booked what they could with what the money they had. Everyone knows summer holiday rentals go fast. NTA, it's not easy to rent large house for vacation. And it's not cheap, so people should guarantee they will go and pay way in advance. So those who replied and paid got their rooms, others are on their own. If you ever coordinate arrangements again, it's polite to give a heads up that you need $X by Y date. If you don't receive $X by Y date, you'll consider them to be unable to attend and you'll book the accommodations accordingly. Once you book accommodations, you send another message saying, since I didn't receive $X from you, I assume you can't make it and booked accommodations without including you. Maybe next time it'll work out. Your error was in not letting them know that you'd moved forward without them. Info. Did you give a deadline for people to pay you by? We have done this several times, but always with the expectation that people pay their share by X date or they don't go. We have some family who always say they want to go, but never actually pay up. INFO. As with most conflicts on Reddit, it's about communication. Were you clear with your friends that you would not book the accommodation until they paid their share? Did you communicate with them when the first choice was no longer available? NTA. Op isn't trying to corral a classroom of middle schoolers. They're trying to deal with adults who should be in control of their own lives. They shouldn't have to chase after them for payment like it's a Girl Guide cookie drive. App planning group trips are a hassle. The place was taken and switched. I would like a heads up beforehand. But to the people who didn't pay ahead of time, they don't really have a say considering they're the reason the original place was taken. NTA. We meant about a theoretical trip, but there are always some of the group that are a pain to deal with if they don't cause problems by dropping out altogether when they need to come up with the money. Or, as I am concerned, you gave the group an opportunity to vote on how big of a place to rent. The method of voting was by either paying your deposit or not, and the group voted to get a smaller place. I used to make plans for our friend group anywhere from 12 to 18 people years ago. After the first trip, which I had issues collecting money, every trip after, 1/2 of the money must be paid by X date, or I will consider you are no longer interested in going. Balance must be paid by X date or I will consider you canceled and no refunds will be given. Some people always get pissed, but then I offered that they can put the whole balance on their credit card and go after everyone for their payment. This suggestion pisses them off even more and thought I was being unreasonable. But when you realize the original choice was booked by somebody else, FYI should probably had gone out that said excali that then said I did however find another booking if you still want to join. Deposit must be paid by this date or once again we may lose out on our choice. NTA they put whole burden on you and did no work and made you have to beg for funds and then got mad. My friend group made a standing policy early on. Rooms bed picks go in order of who paid first. ESH them for not paying you. Let those that ignored your requests know that you are taking their silence as an indicator that they are no longer interested in going and you will book accordingly based on those who have paid. To make it clear to anyone that the number of rooms was now less, or that you didn't set any clear expectations like payment is due on X day otherwise I will assume you aren't going to stay with us. Unless you did any of this. You should have made it clear beforehand. As in, hey, I need the money now, or I won't be able to put the deposit down, or hey, that house got scooped up. I'm just going to grab an 8-person with the money I have on hand. Do you want to see if we can book 2 houses close by to one another? Every time I see something like this, I'm reminded of the story of the little red hen. None of the other animals will help bake the cake, but all of them want to eat it. The little red hen tells them to F off. LOL, you aren't the one that caused the plans to need changing. The house was unavailable due to lack of funds. Simple as that. Oh, come on, you snooze, you lose. NTA, what do people expect these days? Yes, accept the people who paid you in a timely manner. Going to do before you did it, or offered to charge them less if they wanted to sleep on an inflatable mattress. I'm assuming the new house was cheaper than the first one since it sleeps for less people. Instead, you decided to punish your friends. They should have paid you when you asked or given you a firm date that they had to pay by. Why? Not because you didn't put down the deposit. That's common sense, but because you chose without consulting anyone. A different smaller house and then put down a deposit on that one and just expected everyone to be cool with it. Sometimes people can't pay immediately and the plan has to change. That's life. It happens when dealing with groups. But when it does, you go back to the group and discuss it and allow them all a say before you just choose to go with a different smaller place. You don't just decide for everyone then expect people to deal with it. NTA, you did consult with them when you asked for the money. Their failure to respond is in them, not you. NTA, you didn't have the money to book it and they wouldn't even communicate to you about when to book it. What would people expect? I bet they won't do that again. Good for you. NTA. NTA, you handled it flawlessly in my opinion. Make sure you give clear deadlines. If they can do better, then they can plan it. You are not AITA, they are. Large rental properties are expensive and hard to get. You asked for the money, they did not give it to you. You say that some even ignored your requests. They did not communicate, so why should you? Have a great vacation with the friends who communicate and pay for things. NTA, did you tell them you were going to book something smaller? Did you give them clarification that you needed payment before? Did you stay silent when they said they were going to pay you later? You might be a bit of an asshole here if you didn't tell them you were booking something smaller before you did. Not having accommodations or some other negative consequence? If that information was clearly communicated with them but they still chose to ignore or not respond until after it was too late, then NTA. If none of that was communicated or made clear, then ESH. I'm a little confused on some points here. You wanted all your friends to pay the full price of their portion of the accommodation in order for you to put down the deposit. So you had more money in your account than the deposit amount? I've done trips like this with friends, and the person who booked and paid deposit never expected us to pay before booking. Never. It sounds like you don't trust these friends of yours. Or am I misunderstanding? And you only wanted their portion of the deposit amount? That's still interesting of you, but far more reasonable. NTA but foolish for being the travel agent and money guy. Next time you do a group trip, just work through an actual travel agent. There are always people who don't pay on time or at all. Let the travel agent be the bad guy. Thanks for watching.